Hello everyone, welcome to this week's video. A few extra jumps for my very special friend Christine over in Austria. Hope to see you next year. Fingers crossed. Not a turning video, not yet because the wood's too wet, but a little play with my new tool, my new bandsaw, cutting up some cherry and sealing the ends with, I haven't got it behind me, it's in the house, I'll get it, some Endseal from Chestnut Products. I did a couple of bits of this wood earlier in the week. It's beginning to split outside already. It's quite wet, but look at that, lovely, beautiful. No splits at all. Let me get the little piece I'm going to put through the bandsaw. Oh, pretty heavy, and you can see end checking. I just could not carry it in any larger lumps than this. And then unfortunately, it's been very sunny here, so it's been drying quite rapidly. Not quite sure what it's going to be like inside. Hopefully it won't go too deep. Let's get it on the bandsaw and get that checked out. I think this camera, so you can see the long walk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paces. Yep, so here it is, my marvellous Laguna 1412 bandsaw. 13 inches you can cut under the guide. I hummed and hawed between this and a few other competitors, but in terms of the footprint in my very small limited one car garage, this had to be the winner, and winner for a few other reasons as well. 13 inches, much better price than comparable depth of cut. It's had fantastic reviews from people who've been using it, especially in the States. Got a whole load of features that you'd expect, like the fence, a low position and a high position. Very easy to change from one mode to the other, which is great for a bit of resawing and making pen blanks, putting the lower fence down. There was one thing that it came with that I was a little unsure of. I'll just show you that. Get the doors open and it'll be seen more easily. Oh, get that out of the way. I wasn't sure about this bit of metal here. I'll get you a closer shot of it in a moment. That I'd never seen in any previous videos. As you bring the guide or the guard down, it moves when you push the saw up or push the guide up. See it coming out over this side, and I'd never seen that on any of the videos. Apparently to conform with European safety regulations, and I'm very pleased about that. This bit of metal here is designed to stop you putting your fingers round into the blade guard while the saw is operating, which is not something it's possible to do on my little Electra Beckham bandsaw because of the way the guard is configured. So that's a nice little feature. It's a little bit greasy, it's been a bit of a magnet for some sawdust. But the other thing that I'm really pleased about with it having to meet some European standards is the braking of the motor. It stopped in about 4 seconds. It's not plugged in because I would never fiddle around with this and open the doors and show you the blade and have my fingers near it with it powered up. Underneath the table there's another little nice feature to stop you wandering fingers getting under there. There's a little blade guard that goes up and locks into place. So pretty much the only place you can cut yourself is probably where you would normally cut yourself. Well, normally, where you would be more likely to cut yourself in the event of an accident, which is the bit of the blade that is unguarded. Let's do that 4-second blade stop. 3 seconds. So a voiceover bit here because I had the noise cancelling turned on in OBS. It's making very easy cutting of this lovely cherry trunk that I was able to acquire from a lovely couple of people in Hove. And I'm hoping to be able to do some justice to it once it's had some time to dry out. So the trunk was cut into 12-inch lengths. Did have a problem with some of it splitting, as was to be expected. Hence the need to get a bandsaw that would cope with 12 inches and let me cut some neat blanks from it, and then get on to seal the ends to prevent any further cracking and checking and splitting of the wood, so that I can do it justice. Ready to seal my wood, and this is working for me very well, much better than I've found experiments with melting wax and even PVA glue, which I know a lot of people have success with. The last lot of cherry I tried to preserve all split to bits with PVA. Maybe I'm using the wrong PVA, but this, with the test pieces that I did earlier in the week, showing absolutely no cracks. And this is wet. It's very wet. It's cracking really in the logs, as you've seen, quite readily. So fingers crossed for this, because for turning, just the process of turning, I think cherry's my favourite because of the wonderful smell you get from it. So when you're putting the end seal on, eyes, face, hand protection. You never know where that brush is going to end up, do you? Now I'm keeping it square, partly because it's easier to cut it on the bandsaw that way, but also if there are any issues with splitting, and I've got this tip from an Emma Cook demo, so thank you, Emma. I was going to say an Emma Cook debut, that's not right. An Emma Cook demo. So yes, if it's round and it splits here on the end grain, well, it might not split here and you might get a goblet out of that. So it's also oh yeah, fewer cuts on the bandsaw, nicer to store and stack, I suppose. Round things might get a bit roll away. I think I'm talking nonsense now. You probably won't be able to hear it either because the microphone's behind me. So there we have it. 1/2 log processed. It's only taken me 3 hours. Oh, all right then. I'll do a bit of turning. But believe me, this is not going to be a keeper. So another bit of cherry gets put through the bandsaw, and then the compass is used to draw a circle on the face of it, and then I knock some of the corners off quickly on the bandsaw. Got to justify buying a lovely new tool, and then it's onto the lathe and mounted between centres. You'll also notice that I'm wearing a 3M Versaflo. You might remember from a few months back, I managed to buy a second-hand one of these, as well as a second-hand Sundstrom powered respirator. So this is me putting it through its paces. And it performed very, 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 very well. I was very happy with it, very comfortable. Probably a bit lighter than the Sundstrom. I'll have to do something a bit more scientific to establish if that's the case. But it was very comfortable to wear. The vision in it was superb. The comfort compared to a dust mask was brilliant. and having the full face protection is, well, I think with turning it's probably fairly vital, and you get a bit more protection with this headpiece than you know, the standard face mask that a lot of us wear. So I was going for something elegant, thin, pleasing to the eye. So you will have seen this tall OG shape appearing on the outside, and really I could have just carried on cutting this cherry to nothing. It cuts so beautifully. The finish on it was lovely. A little bit dulling on the tools, but I've got sharpening equipment, so that didn't matter. And it really gave me a chance to unwind, have a good tool session, because I haven't really had an opportunity to do a lot of turning. Weird as that may sound, given that I haven't had a day job for the past 7 weeks. It was very, very therapeutic, very relaxing. And when things go wrong, you'll see I don't even swear. I do jump a little bit. Maybe you'll jump a little bit too. I was alternating between a 3/8 bowl gouge and a 1/4 inch bowl gouge. Here's the 3/8, removing a lot of the bulk, and here's the 1/4 inch with a traditional grind on it. Look at those streamers of shavings. That's what I mean about I could have turned it until there was nothing left. I've done that once or twice, but don't tell anyone. It seems like a waste of wood, although you have to practice cuts in order to be able to make them consistently. But that's filling me with joy, watching that video playback of those streaming shavings as I do this voiceover. As it's getting thinner, taking finer cuts, much wispier cuttings coming off there, and then some sanding. Now I think I probably should have sanded it at a slower speed, probably with a powered sander rather than the inertia sander I've got here, which I possibly had turning too fast. Made me jump again. Hope you didn't spill your tea or choke on something. Look at the bravery in that reaction. I don't think the noise reduction would have cut out any swearing had I sworn. Well, that was not, of course, supposed to happen. Never mind, it did have a crease in it at the top anyway, and that possibly is where the sandpaper got caught. But what I'm quite pleased about, because I don't often do proper turning, keep it thick and chunky, don't I? It's really quite evenly wall thickness, slightly fat up here, tiny bit there. Probably wanted a little bit weightier in the bottom, and I'm not entirely sure that the profile is as pleasing as I would want it to be. Bit of work to do on these taller OG shapes, but you learn by doing. Oh, what a shame. The rest of it is absolutely buried in shavings. I mean, the place is full of it. Beautiful. Got some nice mulch for the garden to suppress the weeds, you know. Well, so a summary of this rather strange video that isn't really a project video. The bandsaw, love it. The power on it, the depth of cut, wonderful. Really very good.
I had to tinker a little bit to, there's a leveling bolt between the back and the front of the table. Took a little bit of wiggling around to get them to line up, but that's all taken care of now. The end seal stuff works brilliantly. I'm going to have to seal up some of the wood that I cut today as well. And the Versaflo, well, I didn't really know I was wearing it, and with that rather inopportune end to the turning, I'm very glad I was wearing it as well. It was perfect protection. It's very comfortable actually. I'm getting used to it. I might need to just adjust the helmet so it doesn't sit quite so low on my head. I'm sure there are little adjustments I can do in there. The battery pack is very light. It's I'm going to say considerably lighter than the Sunstrom, but I'm going to do maybe I'll weigh them. That would be a radical thing to do, wouldn't it? To see which is better than the other. But maybe I could glue this strap back together. Something quite pleasing about the shape of it, the shattered nature of it, the impermanence of things. Maybe I should even wedge that split open and spray it black and texture it with pimples and put gilt cream on it. Thanks for watching.
So the blade I'm using is from Tough Saws, and it's a 5/8 3 tooth per inch blade. And that wet cherry, that likes sticking to it. I think I'll have a little bit of a cleaning job to do on this blade very soon. Probably best not to clean it while it's on the bandsaw, but I'll cut some more of that cherry tomorrow and take the blade off and give it a bit of a clean through. It didn't seem to affect the way it was cutting. Or I could stay here all night just picking it off. That might be easier.